Good morning. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. Happy Wednesday.
Yes.
Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. Good to see you. It's coffee time again. It is coffee time again. Let me see who's here. I am in such a whirlwind, tailspin of orders and kits for another class on Cape Cod this weekend. My mom's still here. She's cranking away. We were winding, cranking. We were doing all kinds of stuff, huh? It's been, she's counting. It's been wild. Anita, good to see you. Very hot and humid with health warning advisory out for the next 2 days and 60% chance of rain in London, Ontario. Ooh, that's extreme weather, huh? Got to look out for the very old and the very young and people who are just not in a good situation to stay comfortable, huh? Catherine, good to see you in Idaho. Tara, hot afternoon. Okay, so it's hot in Canada. I guess that is the impression I'm getting because it is it's breezy here, isn't it? We came in so early this morning. I had to drop the car off for an oil change, so we came in super early, and it was nice and comfortable. A little bit stormy and rainy, but you can tell there's some high pressure stuff going on because it's windy. And the humidity is still there. I thought when we came in it was raining and the sun was coming out, and I thought, I wonder if we're going to see a morning rainbow. Is that such a thing? Because I don't see rainbows enough. But when I do, they've always been in the afternoon or evening. I've never seen one in the morning. But I suppose there's no reason why there shouldn't be one, right? We didn't get one anyway. We'll see what happens next. Robert, great to see you. Gayla, it's Gayla. That makes more sense. I see your last name now. Good to see you, Gayla, in Missouri. Oh, hello back to you and Kirsten. Good morning in Vermont. Oh, your weather's the same as in London, Ontario. Wow. Barbara's up in Toronto. Hello, Barbara. Barbara, we're getting a great response. I'm going to have to, I want to be sure that you know how many people are responding. It's a lot of people responding to the Van Gogh Challenge, and I'm real happy about that. I think it's going to be so much fun. And somebody wrote yesterday with the prospect has a kind of a lead for doing a physical show of the rugs. So we might be able to pass them from one person to the next, the collection to put up in places that are local to each other and ourselves and all that. So that was exciting. That's a to be continued. Robin, hello in Wisconsin, and Kaz, also in Wisconsin, hot and humid. If you are in rug, take a look at the rug that Robin just posted. Robin, did you just post a rug? I didn't even get a chance to see it yet. Thank you, Kaz. I'm going to have to check out Robin's post. That is going to be exciting. I love you both. I love to see what you're working on. Beverly, another great buddy. Extreme heat too. What is going on? We must be the lucky ducks of the Eastern Seaboard, right?
Yeah,
I mean, because it's not what it sounds like everyone else is getting. It's quite comfortable. Donna, good morning in sunny Alberta. It's a mixed bag. It's nice, Kaz, that she's still helping me. It's a huge, huge help.
We have fun.
Yeah, I just get so busy. It was so nice at this class. April, good to see you. It was so nice at the Madison class this past weekend in Madison, Connecticut, Madison Wool. Everybody, I offered two kits for each person, as I will again this weekend on Cape Cod. So each person, could choose between 2 punch needle kits and 2 rug hooking kits. And it was exciting that so many people wanted to buy both kits. It was super exciting. I felt very proud and happy, and I thought super successful day. But then I realized I had to make up those kits for the class this weekend. So she's been here for 2 days helping me. And it is a good problem. I'm definitely not complaining. It's fantastic and fun to have good sales and for things to be going well, and I'm super happy. I'm mostly happy because when I'm able to do these classes in person, it's a lot easier than doing Zoom classes because I can actually see what people are doing, and usually the problems that they're having are such small mechanical problems that you just look from across the room and go, oh, your yarn is stuck. That's why the punch isn't working. Your yarn is just a hair stuck under your elbow, and it's enough to make it impossible. Some little thing like that. It's always some little thing, But it's fun. It's been fun. I love seeing people in person and save them some shipping, get them going on something new, right? Lisa, good to see you in steamy Virginia.
Oh.
Mama Bear, you're cool in Montana. Oh, I love Montana. I've not been out there for years since I gave tours. We used to go to to Billings to stay overnight, which was I'm sure it still is a hip and chic little town, nice antique store, nice places to eat. very charming, really sweet and charming. We used to go to the Custer's Last Stand, the battlefield, and then drive to Billings. Beautiful state. What a vast, beautiful state.
Big sky.
Big sky, that's
Big
right.
sky.
That's right. There's a
Yep.
reason they say that. There's a
That's-
reason
yeah.
they say everything, isn't there? It's
Isn't
usually
there?
quite,
It's
quite true.
Basic and true.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just got to show you this. I'm distracted because I keep looking over here. I was dyeing some different fabrics for the classes. I like to offer different fabrics in different classes because at least around New England here, I know some of the same people are turning up for different classes in different places, which is nice to get some continuity seeing the same person. But I want to be able to offer them, if they've taken a class with me already, a different punch needle kit and a different rug hooking kit, and certainly completely different color palettes because it's so nice to have people repeating. So I ended up doing some dyeing the last couple of days just to be sure, and I ended up accidentally doing this dye, right? It looks a bit, my mom said Eastery. It's actually the background is the color, it's a Dharma color rust brown. That's what it is, Dharma rust brown. It's one of their acid dyes. But, I ended up, technique-wise, taking my squirt bottles, my hairdresser squirt bottles, and putting just a drop of powder, the dye powder, of my favorite neon colors. So I have like maybe 6 or 8 really bright neon colors that I love to use. They're Prochems, they're Dharmas, there's even one Cushing, because they're pretty wild colors. But I just put a little dash, a little sprinkle of the dye powder, and then fill the rest of the container up with water, right? And then I use it for casserole dyeing and spot dyeing. But, with this, having that background of the sort of rust color and then doing these light dyes on top, I just loved the way, oh, Kira, you're not late, you're great. Joy, good to see you too. I just loved the way it came out. So I'm really struggling with putting it into the kits. There's a bunch of them, and they have this kind of pink to rust background. I think the color is a little bit pastel-y there with some lime greens. Anyway, I was looking at those, and now I'm looking at the floor and looking at this pattern that I was going to work up for Halloween. Do you remember this for last year? I never got to it. It's something that Joss drew. She drew the little girl, my daughter, and I drew the upside-down pumpkin with the candy falling on her head. And then I wrote licorice lollipops and pixie sticks, butterscotch bubblegum, taffy, and tricks. It's not one of my better poems, but it's cute enough. So I thought, wouldn't this make a nice background for this piece, kind of pink and orange with lots of black outlining and, yeah, candy colors. We'll see what happens. So I don't think this is going in the kit. I think we're going to save that. And I can make more of that too. You see pumpkins. Absolutely. Why not? I know that the world is becoming less literal when I go to Joann's or Michael's, and they've got all their pumpkins out front. We won't even talk about it being like the beginning of August still, but they've got all their pumpkins out front. And have you seen them? They're like turquoise blue, hot pink. They're crazy colors. And I have to say, with rug hooking, I will do that, but in my kitchen or at home, I can't. I can't do the hot pink pumpkins and the turquoise pumpkins. It's, for me, maybe being a sort of Puritan Yankee New Englander, old school, it's too much of a departure. But with rug hooking, I love to see those crazy colors. But they better be white or orange pumpkins if they're going to make their way into the house, But we do this funny thing. I'm going off on a crazy tangent, but we do this funny thing at the end of pumpkin season, because I have some little pumpkins growing and some decorative squashes and Indian corn and stuff growing in the side yard. And when the pumpkins are truly done at the end, because the kids like to enter like carving contests at the library and stuff, when the pumpkins are truly done in the end, I always put them on the front step and put a little light inside them, a real tea light, and then stand way far back and above and spray hairspray down into the pumpkin. Fire comes out of its face, right? Just blows out of its face in the dark. It's so exciting. And then it is truly done, truly dead and done. But it's pretty much done at that point anyway, and it's, for all intents and purposes, we've eaten the seeds, we've abused it, we've carved it. We might as well do an amazing pyrotechnic display with it on the way out. I guess I'm looking forward to fall. So I want to get back to the Anne Wiseman book, Agree on the Pumpkins. But somebody is going to put into one of these magazines, one of these home life magazines or country samplers or something like that, going to do a great display with those bright pumpkins one of these days, and it's going to change my mind about what kind of vignette I need to have inside the house. Carol, good to see you. Marty, good to see you. Carol is on, Mom.
Oh, hi,
Marty,
Carol.
good to see you. So they're running pumpkins like they're ruining pumpkins like they ruined marshmallow chicks and Peeps.
Peeps.
So funny that you say that. They've got some truly gross flavors of Peeps. This year we tried the sort of hot pepper, hot tamale flavor, the red ones.
I didn't like that.
It was more of a cinnamon. I was expecting a blend between, you know, when you get like very hot cinnamon with pepper, like sometimes in hot cocoa and sometimes in cookies, shortbread cookies with like cinnamon and actual pepper. It's quite good, spicy and unexpected. But those Peeps were dreadful. They were really dreadful. And the cotton candy ones were super dreadful, super sick makers this year. They were all huge thumbs down. And who's over there in charge? Why can't they come up with some flavors for Peeps that are interesting, but also, you know, don't make you want to vomit, yeah. So agreed on the Peeps, but the kids love them all though. Kids have.
I was going to say, I think Teddy liked that.
They liked
tamale.
them all. Oh, they made themselves so sick with those Peeps this year. So I'm returning to the Rag Tapestries and Wool Mosaics by Anne Wiseman, and you know, we've been talking about the sort of inspiration part of this book, how well she does with inspiring you, with encouraging you, with giving you the tools mentally and technically to really move forward fast with this craft. I feel that she's the best at it. I feel that her words are great, that she's funny. She's super encouraging. There's nothing pretentious and high horse about Anne Wiseman. I love the way that she speaks and writes. So she does a huge section at the beginning of the book, beginning in the middle of the book, about technical how-tos. And I do want to cover that, and I do want to touch on that, because, you know, for a 1969 book, it's remarkable how up-to-date her ideas are. And it's because she was very up-to-date. She was very outside of the box as a thinker. And for that reason, she's using monk's cloth in 1969. She's using burlap too, but she's also using monk's cloth, mostly because she's doing punching, right? She's calling it shuttle hooking, but it really is punching. So, as we know it now, in tufting, right? All kinds of tufting tools. So, interesting. All of that technical stuff is extremely interesting. But let's skip it for this moment, because our Wednesday episode this week is our last episode. You know I'm headed to the Cape to teach this weekend, so I'm worried about that Friday episode, and I'm just going to pull the plug on it and give you an extra episode next week. We'll really make up for it. Kira, is it almost time for bingo again? I don't know, but I feel like it must be. It feels like it's rising up within me that it's almost time to spin the wheel, but certainly not this Friday. I'm just not sure enough about the internet connection, and if I can do a pop-up show because I figure it's great, I will let you know, and I'll post that in advance. But for today, let's do something that's really inspiring, right? So I'm gonna move forward past the technical stuff, and we'll start Monday. Actually Tuesday, because I'm traveling back on Monday. The class is on Sunday. I'm traveling back on Monday. So let's do I'll be back to you on Tuesday. So I'll run Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week with classes, and then Friday night next week will be a big blowout Friday night cocktail episode, and the following week, Kara says, is going to be our bingo night. Linda, good to see you, and Pat D in Georgia, good to see you. Happy Wednesday. So let's go straight for design, because she's excellent at describing what you need to do technically, and she's excellent at thinking outside of the box and giving you different ideas. She's really, really good at like hammering a square peg in a circle hole. If this doesn't work, do this, and it comes out the same anyway. She's not fussy and fiddly in the way that she works or the way that she thinks. So that is, for me, that's a good match personality-wise. So this book is very good technically if it's on the way and you're a beginner. What she writes in those middle chapters are all you're going to need. But don't bend a nail. Order a nail. Order a hook. I sell hooks for like $12 or $13. There's Joan Moshimer hooks. Very inexpensive. Don't bend a nail unless you really want to. So Chapter 8 is about design and becoming aware of design. And this is, again, crosses over into her personality, which is very abstract. She's a very free thinker. She's obviously a very spiritual person. She's interested in the natural world, the world around her. She's interested in everything that happens when she opens the door. And there it is, nature outside. This is a beautiful chapter about not ignoring. You may know it. This is her speaking. But you've ignored 1,000 original designs. You've walked past them. She says, you've walked past them, you've walked on them, you've sat on them, you've closed your eyes to them, silhouetted on your drawn shades too early on a Sunday morning. They are original because you have recognized them. All the word art really means is the ability to see shape, space, design, form, and color relationships, and the skill to express or interpret the observation in one medium or another. So again, eternal balance between the creative part, the seeing, the art, the doing, right? That shapeless part, and the technical part that has a very finite shape. Always the balance between those two things. She says frustration arises from grandiose ideas. That is so true. Start small. Look at something you love and find out why you love it, why it interests your eyes, why it appeals to your emotions, what it is associated with, where it looks best, at what angle, in what light. So she talks about just the practice of going outside and going, I know I'm going to do this. For example, right now, Mom, can you grab that horse that I have right
Sure.
there?
Yeah.
One of the patterns that I'm offering at the class this weekend is a very simple horse pattern. And I've even made it more simple. Robin, you have this as a really large pattern. It's prim carousel. So I have this on linen for the people in the class, and it's just the horse. I've even taken out this stuff because we do a lot of hand drawing in the class and make it our own. So it's basically a box with this prim carousel horse in it. It's either a weather vane or a carousel horse, depending on how you see it, or a racing horse, any kind of horse, toy horse. But the point is, when you have a shape inside, it's quite a big box, right? It's almost a square pattern, this one. You have a lot of open space in the back. Now, some students will choose to break it off and do what I did, do sort of like sailing flag pattern or whatever, diagonals. Some people will do polka dots, some people will do paisley, some people will not break off into rectangles at all, and they'll just do a very heavy patterned background. Some people might want to do hit or miss, just do concentric rings right around total beginners. There's so many different things that you can do, but she's talking about making yourself more aware of patterns, because for rug hookers, patterns are a big part of our lives. You can have a very simple pattern like a horse in the middle of an open field, and by field I mean background, and you can go in 1,000,010 at least different directions with it. And one of the things that you'll need to be thinking of if you are approaching this kind of a dynamic is patterns, right? That horse is what it is. You're going to fill them in green, brown, whatever, traditional plaids. But you need to think about the background, and you need to think about patterns. Even if your pattern is subtle, even if your pattern is practically solid, you're still going to be hooking it. It's going to give it a direction, right? So you're still talking about patterns. So it's going to be interesting. Thank you, Tara. Do remember to like the video. Oh, do you? The jewelry. Oh, I got a compliment on the jewelry. I love that. It's so funny. I got it's so easy to get me going. I got these nice kind of patina earrings in Rockport. We talked about Rockport, Mass, because there was that great rug hooking colony there. And I found this with Jocelyn on a different day, etched kind of copper patina, which I really like. Do you know, total side note, craft crossover, craft convergence here. Do you know, if you ever work with copper, you probably know this already, when you do stuff with copper, like etch it, or you put Vaseline on a rubber stamp, total departure, and you stamp it onto like copper sheeting, like you're making a birdhouse or you're making jewelry or whatever, and then you pour liver of sulfur on it or put it into a pool of liver of sulfur. It first turns this beautiful verdigris color, and then it turns purple, crazy colors of purple and orange, and then it turns black. And somewhere in between there, you pull it out, just like we do with our dye pots when we're dyeing wool. You pull it out, and you can get any combination of colors. It's like an oil slick or an oil spill. Absolutely beautiful. Using copper with liver of sulfur. If you do any kinds of combos, what a match made in heaven. And when you put Vaseline on a rubber stamp and stamp it onto copper, like you want to make the roof on a birdhouse kind of thing, that's a resist. So wherever your stamp went, like a beautiful rubber stamp, the big elaborate ones they do, or the home decorating ones they do, Vaseline, and then it resists the liver of sulfur, and it stays that bright copper color. So much fun, so much craft crossover. It's all super inspiration. And you know what else I forgot to tell you that I was so angry with myself talking about Barbara's Van Gogh chair challenge and Van Gogh in general. I forgot to mention, I mentioned it in our Van Gogh class, but I forgot to mention it on Coffee Time, Van Gogh trivia. Do you know how most painters, of course, particularly years ago, 19th century painters, early 20th century painters, on their palettes, they experimented with color, and there was a very from year to year, it was almost a fashion, painting teachers teaching you what orders you had to put your colors out on your palette. There was a right way and a wrong way. Different schools of teaching taught you different orders, right, to order your palette. So you would put your colors on the palette to experiment with, like a sampler, how the colors mixed between each other or how they looked alone, so that you would be able to anticipate how it looked when you painted it onto your canvas. Well, Van Gogh is one of the only, he's the only painter I know of that didn't choose colors based on his paint box. He chose colors this way. He collected balls of wool, like yarn, and he kept them like in a little bag. And he carried them with him when he went plein air painting, meaning outside. He carried his collection of wool. And he sometimes got it from sweaters that were unraveling. He sometimes found colored wool on the ground. When he found it, or balls of wool that people were working with for other things, he had his little collection of wool balls. And he felt that looking at wool when it was colored was a much safer way of choosing your colors, because it was so much more luminous and saturated than just looking at paint on either on canvas or on a palette. So for that reason, he always chose his palette for the next painting by taking out all his little balls of wool and lining them up where he painted, and looking at them and taking them away and putting other ones. And his collection of wool little balls was always growing, because he was always on the lookout for more wool. And I think for us as rug hookers, that's just an interesting piece of trivia, because he's connected to us in so many ways, but that's just another way that he's connected to us and what we do. So when you're out there looking for patterns, she's saying, look at everything. And these are some of the ideas that she gives us. So she's saying, cut up wood, piles of wood, right? If you live in a sea area, fish, and with fish also shells, right? It is interesting, right, Robin? Cobblestones and streets, right? I'm not even sure what that is. Is that piping or is that more wood? You know, I think that's just like burly wood. I think that's just more twisty, burly wood. But obviously, all kinds of things from nature. You could take a walk by the water on the beach and find these kinds of patterns. Bring your sketchbook or your phone, right? Phone works now too. These are photographs, why not? Just so you can then do things like this in the background, right? All of this sort of filigree drawing that she does by hand, like the thumbnail that I used for today's episode, this is all patterning. And she's finding these great patterns from nature. She's not tracing them. She's not proclaiming herself an artist with a capital A. She's finding patterns from nature, and she's figuring out how to incorporate those patterns into the backgrounds, into the big open spaces. Because even she will work in a way that she's got a few motifs and the rest is background. And then what do you do with the background? You look for a pattern that's going to fit it. What a lovely example of crossover it is. It is. There are so many crossovers between everything, not just art and science, math, everything. It depends on what you're interested in, what catches your eye, right? People who are more interested in math and people like Martha who are scientists are more interested in those kinds of crossovers and where collections and theory cross over. So it's interesting to talk about everything because we're all interested in different parts of it. These are two really great rugs that she did. The large one I'm going to show you is called Leopard Family, and the other is called the Bad Cat. Kirsten, these are going to really appeal to you. This is the Leopard Family. You can see the mama with one of the leopards here, and she's carrying one of the leopards. Now she has a big wide open space, and what's she doing? She's using like leaves and flowers as her background for patterning. And coming up in the next few pages, she's going to show you how this is Bad Cat here. I absolutely love Bad Cat. And you know, I have to say, I bet you anything that Laurel Birch, Bad Cat caught a bird, if you can see. I bet you anything Laurel Birch knows the work of Anne Wiseman, because Anne Wiseman comes first. Laurel Birch comes on the scene in the 1970s. But this is very pattern driven in the same sort of style. And certainly also in the early 70s, Happy DeFranza was a big rug hooking name, one of the great icons of rug hooking. Lots of cats and lots of patternings and backgrounds. And again, Anne Wiseman is doing this first. So I know that she was a great inspiration to a lot of people. Now, she talks about, I forgot my Janet Connor book today. Remember I was going to bring in that book called Rug Hooking Masterpieces, I think, meaning masterpieces of art, famous paintings through the centuries. So I'll cross that over next week into our commentary. But she does talk about, and we looked at this image yesterday, the color one, but she does talk about borrowing from, she likes to talk about mosaics and using mosaics, borrowing from masters, right? So Bad Cat is fantastic. So, she's looking at art from different periods, different civilizations, different cultures, and she's very inspired by them. So, for example, she found this image in, she says, Time Life book. So it was probably a magazine. She found this image and then she did this. And why shouldn't she? Because obviously it's way out of copyright. So she finds this in a magazine and she hooks this. And that is absolutely legit. You should, if you love this, you should hook it, right? Absolutely gorgeous. So she's saying, think about adapting from the masters. Why not? And then one of her other big things, and this is one that's close to my heart, beg from the innocent, children. She's saying, if you have access to children, that doesn't sound quite right, but you know what I mean. If you have kids or grandkids around you, they are the best folk artists of all. New York sort of scene, right? It's busy, but complete disregard for perspective. That is one of the great hallmarks of rug hooking. And kids are doing stuff like this. Kids are doing stuff like this. I mean, look at what this little boy is just drawing. He's solving problems of space and perspective that for a grown-up would be the kind of speed bump that would make you just give up, right? Overwhelming. But for a child, they don't even think of those things as any kind of obstacle. They just keep going. They just keep fitting things in where there's any kind of space at all. And the things in the sky, like rocket ships in the sun, go up high and everything else goes down low. And that's about as simple as it is when you're a child and there are no rules. Magnificent hooked rugs. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, we'll cover that because this really crosses over next week. But she shows us in this book lots of examples of art that kids do. And it is all so good, so charming, so quaint, so good. It really is. And then she does a segment called Borrowing from the Past, which crosses a little bit with what she did before. But this is just kind of an inspiration collage that she does. Greek vases and cave paintings, more sort of Byzantine stuff, Egyptian stuff, a real mix here. But she's saying, when you look at this stuff, think about the images that you can peel off of it. Whether you want to be inspired by it, meaning just the suggestion of it gets you going, or whether you want to literally copy it because you can, that's up to you. That's up to you because your interpretation as a rug hooker is going to be very different than anything on a vase anyway, right? On a Greek vase. Your interpretation is going to be very different and better, right? She talks about stealing shadows. Design is just outside the door. Even a bunch of dry and green weeds grouped into a pattern. A desk lamp will project them onto paper or Xerox. The technology is a bit dated in this book. But, she collects. She goes for walks and she collects leaves and flowers. Now, remember the Bad Cat I just showed you and the leopard family? All those sort of fern patterns in the back? Well, these are them. And to remember back to last week, Alice Butler, when Vic started going to college and then he went away for his job and he was at home less to work with her on the rugs, he left her a bunch of templates, and most of them were organic forms, leaves and flowers, and stencils, right, Edward Sands Frost style, but not so particular. She would just spread them out on her background and trace them. And that's just what Wiseman is saying too. Just trace them out on your background, and there you go. You have a background. And here she is. Let me show this picture too. Here she is, sort of doing her shuttle hook. Maybe we should just call it a huddle or a ruddler. But yeah, in silhouettes, she goes to all of these shapes. She gets on a real tangent. I'm going to go 5 more minutes with ideas, and this is what she's so good at. She talks about storytelling. Getting an idea, becoming inspired from a story. And by story, she returns to the past a lot, right? She likes very old stuff. So legends for her really hit the sweet spot. She talks about Europa, which is a little bit of a kind of risque legend. So let's skip that one for this show. Romulus and Remus, I think we all know that one. But I'm going to show you examples of these rugs. But she does a beautiful one that's called Peace Through Understanding. And this is inspired by the 1964 World's Fair slogan. Their slogan was "Peace Through Understanding." And they decided to use the symbol of the lady with the lion as the sort of image that represented that year, the World's Fair. So this is Peace Through Understanding. These are all by the author. You can see she's got a real style. And this is, I think that's Romulus and Remus. And this is Europa. So if you don't know the story, you can see there's going to be some strange stuff going on here. Exciting, right? So she talks about storytelling, and then she talks about, I'm just going to cover this last page, because this is good. This is something to think about over the weekend until we're together again on Tuesday. Finders keepers. She talks about finding patterns, not just patterns, but motifs through images like coins. And she shows us all these old coins. Now, this is stuff that you can research a lot more easily nowadays, with the internet right in front of our faces. We're on it right now. Checking out old coins for patterns. Martha, we're doing something like this together with buttons right now. Sort of similar, but these coins, I think, are a great idea for a composition. And when I found that, it got me going, as you can imagine, it usually does. Got me going, and you know what? Looking at these pictures, particularly this one, made me think of a book that I have that's called, and you're probably ahead of me on this, and you probably already have the book. The book is called, it's a quilting book, Quilting Manhole Covers. Because have you heard about lately how people are on Facebook printing t-shirts on manhole covers? There are some very old manhole covers about, right? And the older the sort of part of town you're in, the older the manholes you're going to find. Some of them are super decorative. Have you heard of this? People are going with shirts and literally like screening the shirts right off of the, the relief of the manhole, right? The raised imprint. It's kind of a thing, and there are two books. I have both, and we'll look at these next week too. Book 1 and Book 2, quilting manhole covers. Now, these quilting manhole covers books are a bit, for me, fiddly, because it's almost like a compass rose if you're a quilter, very circular, lots of small pieces, very fiddly. But hooking a manhole cover, I'm putting a flea in your ear right now, because this is something that I want to launch in a week or two. Oh, Sharon, thank you. I want to launch this, so start thinking about it. We're not doing it yet. It's just another thing to think about. Next time you take a walk, are there any manhole covers in your town that would make a great hooked rug? Even just a plain one, right? We don't maybe want it to say sewer, but just a plain one. Now, if there is, would that make a great chair seat or something for the wall that you could box out into a square or a rectangle? I want to think about manhole covers. I want to share our manhole covers. That sounds so... Has anybody ever said I want to share our manhole covers before? Sometimes they say the craziest things, but you know what I mean. I want to put together in our Facebook group and on our blog on Ribbon Candy Hooking, all the things that we share. I want to share our manhole covers and say, wow, this is one that you have in Missouri, Montana, Indiana, because this is one we have in Boston or Providence, right? It could be so neat to put our manhole covers together, share those patterns because they're free, and hook them together. Wouldn't that be a great thing to do? And the best part is to find them, to find the best ones. And I was thinking about it, and I couldn't really decide, and I hadn't looked at the Ann Wiseman book yet, but last weekend I went to the flea market. This was the sign, this was the divine sign that made me really want to do this manhole cover thing with you. I found one of these, and if you're Italian, you probably already know what this is. It looks like a mini waffle iron, but I think it's called, and I don't want to say a bad word, but I think it's called, for the kinds of cookies these are, these thin waffles. Do you know, Mom? I feel like they're called pizzelles or something like that. Yeah. I'm being careful with the pronunciation.
It's a certain time of year they're popular.
A certain time of year, okay.
Yeah.
So that's what this iron is. And when I opened this for $5, look what's on the inside, right? I mean, this could be something. Certainly this one is a design I would like to hook. Large, not fussy like quilty, lots of tips and points. I want to quilt this quite large, and I'm thinking about how I can use it as a pattern. I also like the background to this pattern. But what a surprise. I'm also going to make cookies. But what a surprise when you open this and you get this, right? Because I thought, I was already thinking about the manhole covers, and I'd already ordered one of the books. And then I saw this at the flea market, and I thought, you know what? the heavens are singing, you know, the angels are on my shoulder pushing me to do this idea, do this idea. So this is another idea if you don't have manhole covers, but you have these in your kitchen. These will work too. Doing sort of an imprint design, and I'll do a video that we can all watch, obviously free on YouTube, that I'll show you different methods for getting the designs off a manhole cover or getting them off something like this so that you can start doing these kinds of designs too. Let's talk about that in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But again, on your walks, be looking out for those manhole covers. And see what you've got. And Dave said, I'm still astounded by the Butler rugs from Friday Night Cocktail. I am too. And you know, the best part for me is after I ended coffee time yesterday, Rob wrote me again because we're talking about getting those patterns so I can offer them like always. That all of those 35 patterns are always in stock. But you know, the one that drives me crazy is the poppy rug, the first rug that they did, and that one is lost, right? Vic said, who made the rugs with his mom Alice, said that is the one that was lost over time. So this is what happened right after coffee time yesterday. Rob wrote and he said, I have not forgotten. I'm having a busy week because he does the internet and the publishing stuff. He said, I'm having a busy week, but the whole family's been talking. We're super excited that the patterns are going to be available, so we're going to talk that out. And he said, and also Vic is sending you an email. So that made me so happy. I'm not sure when, I'm not sure, but I'm just so happy that I will be able to be in touch with Vic and get a message from Vic, because I'm thinking he's been watching the videos too. I'm thinking that Rob or family members have gotten the videos to him and made it possible for him to see them, because this was his book and this was his life's work with his mom. I mean, he did a lot of work, all creative, but for us rug hookers, this is like, this is in the core of our rug hooking compendium. This is super important work. So I'm so happy to be able to be in touch with him directly, and I can't wait to get his email, and I will share all the best parts with you, of course. Bad Cat tipped me over to buying this book. Yeah, Kirsten, it's a great book. Bad Cat is so cute with the poor little dead bird on his back. It reminds me of Tweety Bird and Sylvester. Your mom's giggles, right, Lisa? She's standing right there giggling. April, I get a lot of ideas. I try to share the best ones. Some of them are garbage. We were talking about this yesterday, weren't we? I remember reading years ago somebody saying, I never liked Alanis Morissette. I'm not huge into popular music, but somebody said I think on Saturday Night Live, I think it was like they did their news segment and said, you know, Alanis, everything that you write in your diary is not actually a song. And it just stuck with me because it made me think sometimes you sort of hemorrhage ideas and they're not all good. And I hope that I don't do that to you. I try to just give you the ones that I think are useful to a lot of people. Inspiration all around. Okay, good. Donna says it's my favorite book. It is a great book. And I ordered that other one yesterday, so I'm hoping it's not the same book. If it is, I'll put it up and somebody can buy it for what I bought it for if you want to. But yeah, I'm hoping it's a different book and that there's more meat in there for us to look at. Beverly said, made me think of headstone rubbings. Well, yes. Absolutely, that's coming up too. Not headstone rubbings for her, more brass rubbings for her, but that is something that I want to get into. And recently at an antique store, I found this old book that was about a specific cemetery, like on Cape Ann. That's okay, it's the camera. My mom just bumped it. Beautiful old cemetery, and it was a breakdown of all the stones and all the families. So I have it in my head that this fall I want to go out there, and I know you're not supposed to rub the stones anymore, but I'll take a photograph. And I want to do some of those headstones because they look that amazing. And when I do, I'll do a big series of episodes and a bunch of videos so that if you have a local graveyard / cemetery, the only difference is whether it's associated with a church, right? It's the same thing. But with the beautiful old headstones, that's another thing that we can do together in the future. When the weather's a little bit more predictable and a little bit more cool, let's get out there and look for our manhole covers and our gravestones. We can do some beautiful rubbings for those, maybe before Halloween even. So, all right, lots of happy exclamations. That makes me happy. You still need to find Magdalena's headstone. Lisa, I'd love to come out there and look for it with you. That's definitely on my calendar, too, for this fall, is heading out to Pennsylvania, because it's not that far. And I would love to do some coffee times out there and plan like a group thing there. We can do some live coffee times and meet some other people and see what everybody's working on and all that stuff. So anyway, that's it. So things to think about over the next couple days. I'm sorry I'm leaving you again. It's just I'm taking the kids with me, so it's summer. And it's the Cape, and I have a real panic thing about doing day trips to the Cape because of the bridge situation always being backed up. So I always try to build in a couple days, especially if I'm going to take the kids, because it's just too long of a drive to stay for like one night. So I'm sorry to be leaving you again, but I will be back to you on Tuesday with Ann Wiseman, with Janet Connor, with her book, Magnificent Hooked Rugs. Is it magnificent? Did I mess that up again? Oh, Jennifer just told me what it was. Jennifer, what's wrong with me? Was it magnificent? Come on, I got to give it to you right. Magnificent Hooked Rugs, yep. I'll be back to you with those things, and we'll talk about our other projects. In the meantime, I'm always on the internet. I'm not doing anything with the live feed because of connection problems when I'm away in hotels and stuff. So have a good few days, everybody. I hope you get a lot of stuff done. If you're coming to the Cape, I will see you there. I've got 4 amazing kits, and I'm bringing a bunch of other kits and stuff too for people who are super go-getters. But in the meantime, have a great couple of days and a great weekend, and I will be back with a huge, busy schedule for coffee time and cocktail time next week. We will run a full 5-day blast next week of commentary. And I will see you then. Have a great weekend, everybody. Be reading our book, too, for the book club, The Single Thread, right, by Tracy Chevalier. We'll be doing that later this month, too. I will see